So when I look at those, when I see Harriet Tubman, I say, oh my God, Harriet Tubman's too good to be on any U.S. ship anyway, tell you the truth. But I mean, we won't get into that right now.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and so all of a sudden, when the people are black, brown, or women, it's a problem, but it's not a problem. When it was, you know.
Harriet Tubman is honored in so many ways, I can't count it. And I'm not saying she doesn't deserve a ship.
What
but
is
my point is, if there is still, if there's a remnant of DEI included in certain things, including the names of because I think it's a person who's.
I'm not exactly sure why the secretary is making this decision. I know he says he wants to move in a different direction, but those
right. But when you're just throwing out a bone, and it's homophobic, transphobic, racist, sexist.
You're talking about transphobia.
Organized hatred against precious gay brothers and lesbian sisters, and trans, and black folk, and brown folk, and Jews, and Arabs, and Muslims, and white folk. All human beings can be hated, and we've got to put a stop to the cycle of...
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this segment. Just the obsession with this party to constantly show its bigotry and racism is just amazing to me, day in and day out. Check this out and we'll talk about it.
It's Pride Month, and the Pentagon is celebrating by removing the name of a gay rights icon from a naval ship honoring him. A defense official tells CNN that Pete Hegseth ordered the Secretary of the Navy to rename the USNS Harvey Milk. Milk became one of the first out gay elected officials in the United States when he won a seat on San Francisco's Board of Supervisors in 1977. Just a year later, he was assassinated. In a statement, the Pentagon said Secretary Hegseth is committed to ensuring that the names attached to all DoD installations and assets are reflective of the Commander-in-Chief's priorities, our nation's history, and the warrior ethos. Well, what the warrior ethos is exactly, that is unclear. Harvey Milk is a Navy veteran and served during the Korean War. In 1955, he was forced to resign because he was gay. And it's worth noting that on the list of names that they are reportedly considering, this is according to the CBS and the New York Times, CNN hasn't independently confirmed it, it's Thurgood Marshall, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Harriet Tubman, Dolores Huerta, Lucy Stone, Cesar Chavez, Medgar Evers, civil rights leaders, all of them, women and people of color.
No, I think it's always very important to look at this through moral and spiritual lens. See, brother, I had met Brother Harvey, and he supported Goldwater in '64. He's a Jewish brother from Bayshore. He underwent a change and transformation. He was murdered, organized hatred against precious gay brothers and lesbian sisters, and trans, and black folk, and brown folk, and Jews, and Arabs, and Muslims, and white folk. All human beings can be hated. And we've got to put a stop to the cycle of any form of hatred. And it was Moscone was also assassinated. The mayor was assassinated the same day, right? And it was a supervisor who had voted against him who killed him, and then he committed suicide after he left jail. That's a level of spiritual decay back then that we still have to come to terms with today. So when I look at those, when I see Harriet Tubman, I say, oh my God, Harriet Tubman's too good to be on any U.S. ship anyway, tell you the truth. But I mean, we won't get into that right now.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I mean, Harriet Tubman. Talk about warrior ethos.
Absolutely.
gun toting here. I'm a big gun person.
I mean,
I love my guns.
What are we doing here? Is the idea just that if you are a woman, if you are a person of color in American history, you don't get remembered or recorded on a ship, but if you are a Confederate traitor to this country, you do. I mean, Donald Trump, back in 2017, said it was sad to see the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments. You can't change history, but you can learn from it. Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. I mean, that's worth defending, but not Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall, Medgar Evers.
Medgar Evers, Harriet Tubman. I think their names should stay on the ships. I mean, these were incredible Americans who withstood insurmountable odds. I mean, certainly things that, hell, I certainly couldn't imagine today, Abby, in the modern sense. And I would argue, thinking about the warrior ethos, particularly Harriet Tubman, I mean, this is someone who I think really embodies what you would want in a warrior, someone with a level of courage and magnanimity. You talked about this once before, Doc, a couple of years ago. And so I would certainly think she would be someone who would instill the sense of pride and fearlessness you would want in your warriors. I'm not exactly sure why the secretary is making this decision. I know he says he wants to move in a different direction, but those three individuals in particular, I think we should leave their names on the sheet.
But do you want?
Really? I mean, are you kidding me? You aren't at all sure why they're doing this. You don't have the slightest idea, not the tiniest little idea as to why. You see how he gives that confused look at the end of him? I'm not really sure why. Such a little fake worm. No hints were given to you when this party started removing pictures of people of color from the White House. No clue at all, no hint when they were blaming helicopter crash and anything else, scrambling so they can find someone, DEI hire, as these bigots like to call them. You didn't get any hints there. How about making sure they remove grants from African American exhibits from different museums? No clue yet. How about when they didn't want to celebrate any Black History Month in the White House or any type of acknowledgments? Like, unbelievable. I wish someone would ask him this. None of these examples are giving you any idea as to what's going on here, sure, Michael? Like, come on, man.
Is this really what we want our Secretary of Defense to be focused on right now? Don't we want him to be focused on the strength of our military, keeping people safe, not someone's sexual orientation? I mean, this is the job of the Secretary of Defense, is to make sure that we have a strong military, not spend his time trying to figure out what is going to appease the far right or Donald Trump. And this is the problem with Hegseth. And I think that from the beginning, he has shown that he is not qualified for this job. He does not know how to do his job. And time after time after time, again, we continue to see that he has no idea what this job is about, and he cannot lead the Department of Defense. And so I think it's a real question about why is he spending his time doing this?
It's 3 days into Pride Month, and clearly a signal is being sent to the LGBTQ community, but particularly on this issue of gay rights, which we had a conversation on the show about this yesterday, about the erosion of support for gay rights among conservatives. This seems to be a very clear signal that they want to double down on that. And I think the question, to Xochitl's point, is why? Why is this a priority for the defense secretary?
Well, I mean, let's not forget the Republicans had the first transgender speaker at a national conference in 2016.
Would they do that today?
President Trump, I think she'd probably be invited to the White House.
You think so?
President Trump made Secretary Bessent the Secretary of Treasury, the highest ranking, to my recollection, the highest ranking openly gay American to ever hold that office. He's had Rick Grinnell in his first administration. He was the first president to actually run openly in support of gay marriage. So I don't think his LGBT record is really in question. But this isn't the hill I would die on. Just let me start with that caveat. But let me try to explain. There is still controversy about the LGBT movement, right? We have this debate at this panel. We talk about women, men in sports and things like that. And we used to name Navy oilers after rivers. I looked that up before I came here, right? And at some point, the previous administration and others decided we're going to make political statements. And most of the people that they named ships after have no real political controversial views. And I think we are still having a debate over part of the LGBT issue in terms of how broad of a scope the movement can go without pushback. We're seeing, again, this issue with women and men competing in the same sports is an 80-20 issue where people are not with the LGBT community, right?
Yeah, but
and I'm only saying that because we used to name ships after things that were not at all politically.
We name ships after people all the time, as we've established. We name military bases after people all the time. Some of those people tried to overthrow this very government. And so all of a sudden, when the people are Black, brown, or women, it's a problem, but it's not a problem. When it was, Andrew Jackson or whatever it is,
I think we should be taken off too.
I guess this, you were talking about Trump's credentials on LGBTQ issues. I think you're right about all the things that you noted. But I do ask, the question I have to ask is, what signal are they sending by making this move now and doing it with this particular ship that's named after someone who was killed just because he was gay.
Because I think his name was included to insert an idea into the public sphere about a political issue that we're having. I think that's part of somewhat of the DEI movement, the thing that Pete Hegseth has been talking about. So I think, at the very least, whether you agree with me or not, we're going to see more of this type of stuff happening, I think, as the military recalibrates.
I just want you to finish the thought, because is the statement that he is making that people like Harvey Milk should not be honored in this country? Is that the statement? Like, what is the statement?
I mean, Harriet Tubman is honored in so many ways, I can't count it. And I'm not saying she doesn't deserve a ship.
What is the statement?
My point is, if there is still, if there's a remnant of DEI included in certain things, including the names
DEI?
of, because I think it's a person whose contribution to society is celebrating the diversity of LGBT people.
Well,
in my opinion,
I mean, it could be that he was served honorably in the Navy. It could be that he was an elected official.
We have no other municipal elected officials with ships named after him.
Okay.
Not one.
Yeah, but he was...
It's because he was a gay rights advocate. That's fine.
Pete Hegseth, in an attempt to rename formerly named Confederate military bases back to their Confederate names, picked out of a list of veterans just random people who served, which is fine. Harvey Milk is a person who served.
These ain't the issues I die on, by the way. I
think part of what's at stake.
It's just that this obsession with this party trying to portray their bigotry for the world to see is truly astounding. And what Humpty Dumpty there and Little Shermichael, what their job is to do here, same thing with Scott Jennings, is to act as shields or sanitizers. They clean up the racism as to shield the world. We're not really racist. Look at why. And provide all these bogus examples. But while also pushing these racist dog whistles, which is not even dog whistles anymore, to their base. These people know exactly what they're doing. It's so despicable, to be honest. And I think it's a mistake to say that this is a Trump thing or a Pete Hegseth thing. It's a Republican Party issue. These two dudes are Republican strategists. This is what they do. It's not a far-right Republican Party issue. I don't ever hear anyone on the right condemn racism, any level of bigotry, any of it. But Jasmine Crockett calls Governor Abbott, who's just a vile human, just a despicable piece of garbage, Governor Hot Wheels, because he's in a wheelchair. One of the few people in the Democrat Party with real passion and fight. And she's gone for the media, from the media for weeks and condemned by her own party. This is how Democrats lose. It's just no fight. And when it comes to these people, this Republican Party we're seeing here, whether it be black, brown, Arab, Jews, women, gays, trans, the Republican Party is filled to the brim with people with hatred for one of those groups or another. Or how I like to say, if you hate one group, you probably hate most, if not all of them. Right? For example, if you hate black people, the likelihood that you hate brown people is predictably high. You hear me, Hispanics that voted for Trump? That goes mainly for you.
Here is, how do you separate the raw vilification and hatred of vulnerable people, no matter who they are? And I've mentioned the whole list before, right? And it's a human thing, but we got to keep track of it. And then how do you have a respectful political conversation about wrestling with various issues and policies? The sad thing is that they blew her. And so that's why so many of us say, no, we will defend our precious trans and gays and lesbians, even if we disagree with certain policies that's coming out of that community. I'm going to defend black folk, even when I have deep disagreements with black people, because I want their humanity affirmed. And that means what? Giving them the right to be wrong and the right to be right. But when you're just throwing out a bone and it's homophobic, transphobic, racist, sexist.
You're talking about transphobia. We just saw an Olympics where a person who we all could see was a man beat the heck out of some women on live TV. And we were told
but that's a different issue, though, brother. That's a different issue. Because we want fairness in sports. We want fairness.
But do you support Imani Khalif in the Olympics?
I want
yes or no?
fairness. I believe
Is
there
that a yes
must
or no?
be
I mean,
fairness in sports.
Was it right
and
that
therefore,
Imani Khalif was able to
I just
beat up
have
women?
to note one thing because this has
does it have
happened
to do with anything?
not specifically with you, Joe, but it's happened on this show
I'm getting blamed.
so many times over the last few days with our conservative friends that any time that the conversation is about gay rights, the conversation shifts to trans people because that's more comfortable to talk about. And I think it's important, as he was saying, you know, even if you take trans, we're not even
there's
talking.
consensus.
Hold on.
I think there's consensus
No,
in
hold on.
America.
There's not a single person on this list who is a trans person. Okay, so let's just put that to the side for 1 second. All of these people are not that. Harvey Milk was a gay man. Why is it that the conversation always has to shift to that territory?
all I can
Because you
say,
feel like
Abby,
it's more comfortable politically to talk
All
about?
I can say is Thurgood Marshall, Harriet Tubman, all of those individuals. should
Dolores
stay.
Welter.
The other individuals, I don't have any particular, unity or views one way or the other on them. But those folks have done a whole lot for our country, a whole lot for our community. I think every American could really be proud of them. And again, I think they do, particularly Harriet Tubman. She certainly speaks to, I think, the warrior ethos that the Secretary is talking about. The other individuals, I'll let him make whatever decision he wants to make on them.
I mean,
Sure, Michael. Why do you think Harriet Tubman is included in this? Why do you think they're calling people that look like you DEI hires? Like, it's such a little snake.
that's look. I think the question is, why is the defense secretary just picking and choosing based on trying to make statements about specific groups? I mean, you mentioned a few names, but there are people on this list who have done things for other groups, Cesar Chavez and others.
yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't make them less heroic because maybe Pete Hegseth doesn't know about them.
Yeah, sure. And I did
weren't there
not.
You don't know about
I did
them.
not cite them because I don't think they're important.
I'm just saying,
know
I
that
just
the
want to make a
three
note
Black
that like,
Americans because they're
like,
important to me.
I'm a
That's
black
all.
person,
Why weren't there any
you know, you're a black
conservatives on the
person,
list?
but I also know who these people are because
Why weren't there any
you know.
conservatives on the list?
Well, look, because I didn't make this list.
I'm just saying, but who did? Essentially,
Pete,
right?
Pete
the
Hegseth
previous
and
Secretary
his
of
staff.
Defense.
No. Pete
This
Hegseth.
is all people who were part of the John Lewis class of Oilers, right?
Yeah.
So who named the majority of the ships? The
okay.
last
No,
administration.
Brother Joe,
administration.
Harriet Tubman and my brother Robbie George and I were right there in the Supreme Court quarters when he actually was sworn in on the Bible of Harriet Tubman, and I was standing right next to him. This is my conservative Republican Catholic brother, who I love deeply and I disagree, but I love him much. And Harriet Tubman was a religious conservative. Her Bible was almost as big as her. She was only 4 feet 9 inches. Her Bible is this big.
Yeah.
If that's not religious conservatism, I'm not the son of Irene and Clifton.
Let me
All
rephrase.
right.
So what do we mean by
all right.
conservative?
I think
From
that's
the
actually a
20th
good place
century.
to end this
You know,
conversation.
in this time period, the Democrats were,
we gotta
were,
go.
Advancing slavery at the time,
Joe,
right? So-
we do have to go because I think that's a good point to end on. That what we think is conservative today was not conservative
19th century
of the
conservative.
past. Coming up next for
These people are vile, and unless we get very direct with why your party does this, why do you defend this, we're never going to get past this issue. And this is why I talk a lot about unity and how neither of our groups stand a chance if we can't unite and put whatever stupid differences we have to the side. This here, what we are seeing, is much more dangerous. The normalization of this kind of garbage is ramping up, not only in this country, in the world. If we all united and realized that we all share very similar issues and voted in that way and stood strong in our allegiance to one another, they don't have a chance, guys. And having the mentality of your issues are my issues. I think it's very easy too many times to separate yourself from an issue because you're not directly affected or your people are not. And this is a normal kind of reaction, not really evil about it, nothing really evil about it, but it does need to change. These bigots are motivated. They're hungry to have a world in which we aren't here, at least in the capacity that we are in now. Take that to me however you may. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about all this. Please leave a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.